here we are on the sunny south coast of England. Hot. And there's the Isle of Wight over there. And I guess really it's an appropriate day to do the story of creation, while at least relying upon memory. So don't quote me, but God willing, you do your best to remember what you remember. And what did it say in the first verse in Genesis? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. There weren't no clouds as yet, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. So darkness upon the face of the deep, very appropriate to have the dark clouds up there, but it has to be remembered that there weren't any clouds. It was just complete blackness, absolute blackness, darker than the darkest hour before the dawn. And so what you have is the dawning really of the first day. And so on the first day, people might imagine, well, what did God make on the first day? God made light. But then when you read it again, you think, well, in the beginning was God created the heaven and the earth. So you have a kind of a heaven, but no heaven in that. It actually hasn't been created yet. Up there you would have had just the darkness of space, no sun, no moon, no stars, no clouds, just everything pitch black. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So you picture, well, where is the earth? It must have been kind of under the sea. And you think, well, I guess really God must have made the heaven in a sense, because it hasn't been created yet. Heaven really means a wide open expansion of space, really. The atmospheric heavens more being the heavens that God created on the, where are we now, on the second day. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. You can't see the earth, though, because you can now. This is over there, you've got the Island of Wight, and we're on the south coast, and typically in England people take off to the beach in the hope of a nice sunny day, and as usual the clouds come out. But darkness upon the face of the deep, somewhat appropriate if you can imagine that the seashore isn't there because God hasn't created dry land yet. So what does it say? In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, so it's absolutely pitch black, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. So you picture there was a world, it appears to be under the sea, though God hasn't even called the waters seas yet. And so it says, darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Now there's one without too much land. Darkness upon the face of the deep. No clouds, no sky, no stars, no sun, no moon. You kind of picture there on a dull day like this. Darkness upon the face of the deep. And then it says that the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So you kind of picture God here. I can't see if there's anything moving upon the face of the deep out there. Like there's this little speedboat way out there. I don't know if you can see on this tiny little camera, but there is actually a speedboat. He can be God moving upon the face of the deep, assuming you can see it. So, and the Spirit and God moved upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God actually moved upon the face of the deep. No people, no land, and God says, let there be light. So what are you picturing? You're picturing the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep. You picture like God, he's created God in the beginning. God created the heaven and the earth. The earth was without form and void. There's no earth. It appears to be somewhat under the sea. And so God in the beginning starts out with creating an earth that isn't visible, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And so the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So really you're picturing here God like a kind of a surveyor, and he's looking and seeing the potential. It doesn't look very good. It's pitch black. There's just endless water and nothing else. So I guess really with the world being round under the water, you're picturing just a round kind of bubble of water, if you could compare it with space, although there isn't no space yet. It's just an empty space, no stars, no sun, no moon. So God is moving upon the face of the deep. There's a little speedboat out there. God moving upon the face of the deep like a surveyor, and God's weighing up the potential for this earth. God's got a plan. It doesn't look very good at the moment. Darkness upon the face of the deep. And God says, let there be light. So the clouds are lighter over there, but not that light. God said, let there be light. You might hear me thinking sunlight. But no, God hasn't created sunlight yet. He doesn't create sunlight until the fourth day. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And then God said, let us make a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And so God made the firmament. You might think, well, what the hell is the firmament? It's like you imagine, so you got a world, it appears to be under the water, because in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, so the earth is there. It appears to be under the water. And God says, God's going to now create the firmament in the midst of the waters. And with this, and separate the waters from the waters. So, at this point, some of the waters appear to be more, in this sense, going up, and some staying on the earth and around the earth. So you're pitching now a giant bubble of water on the earth, the wide open expansion of empty nothingness, but there is night and day. And God separating the waters from the waters, some staying on the earth, though the earth isn't seen yet, it's under the waters. And some you might think, well, are going up kind of at the top. If you imagine a wide open space, which in the beginning was called the firmament, which God then went on to say, God called the firmament heaven. So the original word for heaven was the atmospheric heavens, a wide open expansion of space. And you might think, well, space can go on forever, but what about the Earth's atmosphere? Well, if you could picture the seas, in other words the waters around the world, no world yet, and if you go further out, you have waters out there at the other end of this wide open space, the expansion of space being the atmospheric heavens. So kind of, if you could stand way back and picture the earth with the sea round it, which isn't even called sea yet, it's waters, and then you would picture the world really being in a kind of a big bubble from a distance, in that the waters are up, at one end of the spectrum being the firmament, which God calls heaven, which is the atmospheric heavens. So let us God created. So on the where are we now? On the second day, God created the heaven, the atmospheric heavens. God called the firmament heaven. So you now have light, you have the sea, you have a wide open expansion of space stretching from the water around the earth, which are eventually going to be called the sea, and further out at the other end of the firmament, kind of above the firmament, above the heaven, above the atmospheric heavens on earth, you've got this kind of waters that went up. And I guess you picture really these waters came back down during the flood. So you had all this water around the earth, some went up, some stayed down. And eventually when there was a flood, a lot of these waters came back down. And so on the second day, God creates the atmospheric kind of heavens that we know. And there's no sun, moon, stars as yet. There's no clouds, just a wide open space. And in fact, it didn't used to rain in those days. A mist used to come up off the earth, but the earth isn't here yet. So on the third day, God then says, like I say, I'm relying upon memory here. God then got the waters, told the waters, or said, gather together the waters which are under the heaven into one place, and let the dry land appear. So you've got kind of the Isle of Wight there. So imagine God says, gather together the waters which are under heaven into one place, and let the dry land appear. Suddenly the dry land appears, and God calls the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he calls seas. So you're thinking, well, hang on, seas and earth, why not? So the earth, was there just one land kind of thing, seas? You think, well, I guess different fish live in different temperatures, maybe that's why they were called seas. So you've got now on the third day, God has told, God said, who's he talking to? Really, he's talking to Jesus. Because in the beginning, we're talking about in the beginning was the Word, that's Jesus, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him. Apart from that, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. So there you have the Father and the Son creating the world. And interesting enough, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, the same as in the beginning with God. All things were created by him. If you go with that, it's singular, plural, singular, plural. In the beginning was the Word, Jesus, single, and the Word was with God, plural. The same as in the beginning. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, singular. All things, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, the same as in the beginning with God, plural. All things were made by him, singular, and without him was not anything made that was made. So 7. Singular, plural, singular, plural, singular, plurals adds up to 7. And God creates the world in 6 days. On the 7th day he rested. So what have we got? We've got, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, let there be light. And then you have the second day, and God creates the firmament and separates the waters from the waters, and God calls the firmament heaven. So the original word for heaven was the atmospheric heavens. And then you have the third day, and God gathers together the waters into one place, and let the dry land appear. Well, you could use the Isle of Wight there as a kind of dry land appearing. God calls the dry land earth, and the gathering together the waters he calls seas. So there you have the third day. And then on the fourth day, God creates two great lights. We haven't got the sun today. The greater light to rule the day. I'm not sure where the sun is now, or where it should be. It isn't even peeping through the clouds. So God created two great lights over that way. Let's see what the time is at the moment, 2:30. So if you go with the old time, you would think that the sun would be somewhere towards the middle-ish. Over there is brighter. So God created two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, the moon. He made the stars also. And then on the fifth day, God creates birds. There's a bird there, seagull. Any more birds? There's another bird there flying over the sea. God created birds. And God created, there's another bird there, God created fish. Also on the fourth day, actually, I forgot to say, on the third day, actually, I forgot to say, God created plants. There's some plants just there. And trees and flowers and grass. And all of these having their seed in themselves, so reproducing, recreating over time. And all of these plants really all reproducing all the seeds in themselves, and over time, over hundreds, thousands of years, we've still got plants to this day. So on the fifth day, God creates birds and fish in the sea, in fresh water, no doubt. So, well, that's the story of creation, somewhat in relation to the south coast here, the bird there, and the dry land appearing, more birds there, created on the fifth day, and dry land appearing there on the on the third day. So yeah, not so sunny here today, and a good thing to do if you're even at the beach and you've got nothing better to think about, the sun isn't shining, then muse upon God's creation, of how he created all this. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The earth was without form and void, darkness upon the face of the deep. The Spirit of God moving upon the face of the waters, and God saying, let there be light. And one last thing, you kind of picture, there's an illustration here somewhere where there's a yacht. That can be God moved upon the face of the deep. God seeing potential. And on the third day, God creating the earth, really like a baby, let the dry land appear. God gathering together the waters into one place and let the dry land appear. So giving birth to the earth really on the third day. In a sense, this is an illustration of God starting out with nothing but darkness and emptiness, and seeing like a surveyor moving upon the face of the deep. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep, God seeing potential. And eventually the dry land appears like a baby coming up out of the water, like a baby's born out of water. So really everything's an illustration of something. So even the creation, really, God starting out with nothing but emptiness and darkness, and seeing potential, moving upon the face of the deep, and eventually the dry land appears. So the earth was born really largely on the third day. and then all of this plants and trees and animals, and then man created on the 6th day. So plenty of man at the beach today. I guess there would be more if it was more sunny. But anyway, everyone taking off to the beach in sunny England, but as is normal in England, the clouds have a way of coming out. But that's life here. But you can turn a dull day into a more brighter day if you a good time to review God's creation of how he created the world in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. And on the 7th day, he rested. Someone resting down there. So, praise Jesus.